Hello there, both of you, and I hope you're having a great day. I'm Geoff Scott. I am the CEO and Chief Community Advocate for ASUG, America's SAP Users Group. And with me today are two esteemed gentlemen who have written an amazing book called Business as Unusual. And I'd like to spend the next few minutes with them today discussing what they've been thinking and how they're thinking about we as technology practitioners can really think about the future with business and the future with technology. So Vinnie Mirchandani, good afternoon. Hello, how are you?
I'm doing fine, Geoff. I'm speaking to you today from the beautiful city of London, United Kingdom. So thank you for moderating this session for us. It's a special edition of Burning Platform. And this is Peter's book, Peter and Thomas's book. I was just a little, I helped them narrate it. So
you were a minor connector of sentences and punctuation is what you're trying to tell me.
And a few hundred interviews and a few other minor things, but let's face it, Peter and Thomas built this amazing vertical IBU infrastructure and product base. So let's give them the credit over the course of the next few minutes.
Yeah, so all the credit due to Peter Maier. Peter, hello there. How are you? You and I go way back, but please introduce yourself to this audience.
Yeah, I'm so glad seeing you and Vinnie. So thank you so much for the session today. My name is Peter Maier. Joined SAP a long time ago in 1991. I really have to say I'm every day passionate about our customers, about our partners. And obviously, I spend a lot of time also in North America to understand what are the customers doing, what do they need, and how can we translate that into products. And right now I'm taking care on the strategic customers of our CEO, Christian Klein. And from that point of view, I'm really delighted being today with you. Thank you so much.
You know, Peter, I would be remiss if I didn't underscore and highlight what you just said in that in the years that I've known you, and I've been part of ASUG for almost 10 years now, and you and I got to know each other very early on in my tenure. Your commitment and passion for customers is absolutely tremendous. And I can't thank you enough for everything you've done in every conversation you and I have had over the years, and there have been many, many conversations. Every time, your commitment to customers and your commitment to how we as customers go through our journey has been unrelenting. So thank you for that.
You're very welcome.
I would like to start off today by understanding what, Peter, gave you the initial energy, that spark that said, this is why I want to talk about business as unusual with SAP. Take us to how you kind of came up with where you wanted to go.
Yeah, it was actually interesting. Thomas Sauer-Essig and I met at the beginning of the year, last year. And, we basically, both of us, we basically have a lot of interactions with the customers across a broad range of industries. And then he said, Peter, we spend so much time now. Why don't we document that and our findings? So it was a recurring topic, how to deal with the megatrends. He said, we need to write this down. How can we do that? And in addition to that, please articulate how can SAP solutions and the partner solutions help to address these megatrends. So rather just writing our point of view, we engaged many customers, but also our partners to also hear their perspectives and their industries. And then I had somebody said, we need a good title for this book. And we get so many feedback. I think we never could have picked a better title than Business as Unusual with SAP. So that was the whole motivation, how we did that.
And Geoff, when we talked early last year about the time Peter was ready to think about this book, and 4 different major shocks have changed industries, right? COVID had, obviously, from a medicine health perspective, Ukraine crisis early last year, climate change urgency growing, and then the major digital transformation that most customers have been through. If you look at the impact of all those 4 shocks, no industry is the same as it was before, right? We've been able to imagine applications we could not imagine 5 years ago. Things like telemedicine. Yeah, it was there, but nobody really used it. EV battery management, right? I mean, 5 years ago, it wasn't an application we needed. Intelligent returns of e-commerce. I mean, can you imagine letting a store associate decide whether to restock, whether to refurbish, what to do with the return? You need a very complex process and reverse logistics and all that. So we were looking at a lot of applications, vertical edge applications that just didn't exist 5 years ago. So, I mean, and there's no industry that's not affected. So all these thoughts came together, but the four big shocks kind of had changed industries. And unfortunately, a lot of vendors are still selling stuff that was in their bag in 2018. The world has changed. Business as unusual.
Yeah, I think
so, in the book, sorry, go ahead, Peter, please.
The other difference, I would say, was also, in the past, we have seen a lot of boring documents. This is going on in this industry, and this is going on here, and this is going on here. So we really would like to do something different. We said, where are these mega trends, so to speak? Where are these mega trends? So we really prioritize them, and mega trends in a way that what is the impact of the overall and the entire value chains that typically cut across the boundaries. And I think Vinnie is completely right. It was a range of lifelong health, which is really all important to us, right? What's everything as a service? What's the outcome-based business? Then capital and risks. The whole topic of resilient supply chains and networks is a key topic. But then also the integrated mobility and the circular economy. So the whole topic of the sustainability, sustainable energy, we included. And finally, we end with the new customer pathways. How do we really support the customer moving forward end to end? So I would say that mega trend, which really goes across, where multiple industries will contribute, smaller ones, small players, right, big players, how this will play together along key themes. I think that is the big thing which we drive with the book.
You talk about a lot of megatrends. How many are in this book?
Geoff, it's funny. We started off very ambitious. We had 20 of them.
20. Vinnie, that's a huge number. That's not ambitious. That's crazy.
We whittled it down to 12. And in the end, we took them down to 8. Because look, this was, we didn't want to just have a preset notion, right? As Peter says, SAP has so many customers, so many partners, so many research organizations, NGOs, and so on that they had access to. We wanted to make sure we were distilling all that, and so the 8 that ended up were the strongest, but there are many more we could have considered. Digital government, we could have considered a whole bunch of other things that kind of went to the bottom of the list, but we ended up at 8 very, very powerful ones, as Peter mentioned.
It's a big number, Peter.
It's also interesting to get them connected, right, Geoff, and the whole audience, right? If you take, for example, let's take everything as a service, right? You find that you really create a new customer pathway. So going from one-off transaction to continuous relationship. But then also, obviously, what is it about? It's about capital and the whole risk, which we need to address. So you can start with a mega trend and following connections through the book, or you start with an industry and you branch out the different mega trends. So you have basically 2 dimensions where you can go through. Nobody will read it from the beginning to the end. So that's the news. And that we go. You did? Okay, you're an exception.
Well, I had to talk to both of you today. I wanted to make sure I was prepared, so I wanted to make sure I understood. And I don't. So, but I enjoyed reading them. Peter, is there a mega trend? If you could pick one, sorry, go ahead, Vinnie, please.
I was going to say, Peter and Thomas are fairly modest for the depth that they bring. And one of the things up front we said was, we don't expect anyone to read the whole book, right? So let's make it easy to navigate. So there's a lot of, as Peter mentioned, there's a lot of checkpoints, a lot of graphs that allow you to say, hey, look, in the automobile industry, integrated mobility is likely where you're likely to focus. But everything as a service cuts across so many industries. What can you learn from other industries? So there's a lot of pathways to the book.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I think one of the keys for reading this as the average reader is to understand that you can take away other innovations and things going on, in certain industries. And, if you have the ability to be creative and have a little bit of ingenuity, you can apply a lot of what you both talk about to various different industries and segments, which I think is tremendously interesting. I'm curious, since you've written this book, has anything changed? Anything kind of come to mind as you think about where we are today and versus where we were when you finished writing this?
I want to start a little bit with your previous question, right? Which you addressed. Which one would you pick? And from that point of view, if I would pick one in a business as usual, I think we discuss a lot in our private life right now. We discuss the whole topic of health. And I think that was one of the key mega trend we have identified as really as lifelong health. And we want to live long and healthy lives. I think that's key. And to some degree, it's also a matter of lifestyle, which we have. So we have great examples. If I remember right, like companies like Discovery of South Africa thought that it's a smarter to really reward also people for the health and responsible lifestyle than rather paying a doctor and a medicine. So they gave clearly not bonuses, but they motivated the people and attracted them with that approach. And this opens a huge set of opportunities to engage with customers in completely new ways. But of course, not every disease or pandemic can be prevented. So we also support the whole life science industry at all stages of the pharmaceutical lifestyle, from early research, manufacturing, and also supply chain. So if you would ask me, if we take also COVID, the pandemic has shown us how fast and adaptable the life science industry is. And the next big things is really personalized medicine, which really massively will transform that industry. So the takeaway here for everybody is really how real world disruptions can change an industry that many have really viewed as very conservative and slow moving. So if you would ask me something, the biggest surprise was for me that we talking to these customers, talking to these partners, especially the combination of them really brought up so many new ideas, new business models. And think about it, I have to be honest, right? The whole topic of machine learning, artificial intelligence, when we started last year in January, that whole thing was not on the map on the population globally as today, right? So just think that through, how that will change the whole way. It has proven how agile, how flexible we have to be moving forward. The whole IT industry to adapt and also work on the key business priorities, not problems, business priorities for our customers, always in an industry context. And I think that's my big learning. We need to collaborate much more, being much more open in order to keep up with the speed and the standardization and the scalability which our customers expect from us. I know a long answer, but it would be my key learning out of the of this example now in particular.
Geoff, I would say I had a slightly different answer. Not necessarily the favorite one, but one that just completely blew me away in terms of SAP's capability was the whole energy chapter, right? When SAP has every major oil company as a customer. So yeah, clearly we could get a lot of case studies on the oil and gas side. But SAP itself is such a big player in electrical vehicles. So I talked to their fleet manager about SAP's own investment in battery infrastructure. Okay. They have people who can talk about geothermal. They have people who can talk about the emerging hydrogen economy. There are people who can even talk about nuclear energy. I was blown away by SAP's knowledge of energy. They don't tell people, hey, look, we're an energy research firm, but they're probably one of the best research firms, not that they sell research, within all the IBU leads and resources they have and the partners they have. So, to me, it was the longest the draft that we delivered to the publisher, energy was 60 pages. It was so big and so controversial. But I mean, there's a lot of arguments around the world. What's the right approach? And we were just trying to present, hey, look, the good news is we have a lot of options. We just have to pick wisely. So I don't know about favorite, but certainly the most invigorating from an interviewing and writing perspective.
It's funny you bring up energy, and here in North America, oil and gas and the utilities are two of the biggest and most prominent industries within the SAP ecosystem from an ASUG point of view, right? We have such energy behind them. That's not to say that others aren't important. They all are. But Peter, you and I have been around the oil and gas space for quite some time, and utilities as well. And I think that this is, Vinnie, to your point, a very interesting time to talk about both of them, because as we record this today, we in both Europe and North America are experiencing phenomenal amounts of heat in the summer. And there was an article I was reading this morning about, the energy grids here in North America. And a year ago, there had been a lot of concern about the ability of these grids to handle the amount of load required. And now with the advent of batteries and other things, the utilities feel they're in a much better position to smooth out energy demand and be able to handle it in an era of unprecedented climate change and heat that requires a lot of air conditioning to run. So I think, your point is well taken. Peter, I also appreciate your willingness to say that AI and large language models were not a thing when you guys finished up this initial volume early in, I guess, 2022, I might say, maybe 2023. But they are now. So if you think about volume 2 of this book, do you think that volume 2 starts to talk about, generative AI and large language models and how they're going to change everything?
So I have to say that we have addressed it. The whole topic of machine learning, AI, and generative AI has been addressed in the book. It's not that that was now invented in the October-November timeframe last year. I would say, especially the customers where we talk to, they have been very proud to talk about their achievements. And they also talked about, in one way or the other, how they are leveraging AI and machine learning already. You also will see in the book, the customers who really decided on going for a certain model, they have not been only interested to share where they should go with a certain model. They also wanted to share, how can you help me? How can you help me, SAP, including your partners? And from that point of view, also the whole topic of machine learning and AI is already addressed in the book. If I would do it today, I even would obviously stress it even more. But I don't think, and especially in our context, we basically, from an SAP's point of view, we put AI, machine learning on, and also the whole new technology, we always put in a business context. And I think that is the key takeaway, which we really have here. We really want to make sure that all innovation, AI, machine learning is in a business context. I see a lot of opportunities. You just mentioned the oil and gas, you mentioned the utilities industry, whatever we see on the procurement side, whatever we see on the services side. There is so many new innovations which coming down the road. When we talk about procurement, where would you procure the certain products or solutions in the network, where we can really work with machine learning and AI to basically come up with proactive recommendations to improve the bottom line of a company, the top line, and moving forward also the green line, the whole topic of the sustainability. And I would say there are always lessons learned from the US to European companies and Asia. I would say on the sustainability, I think Europe was at a certain point ahead from a sustainability point of view compared to the US. I see a lot of commingle now taking place between both industries. But the whole topic of machine learning, AI, I just talked last week to a utility company, is absolutely key in finance, in the logistics. Think about asset management, how much they do on asset management and how machine learning can help to optimize, especially in the utility companies in the US, moving forward to basically optimize all that manual work which still is happening right now.
I think, Jeff, the important thing is Gen AI is getting a lot of attention, right? but the use cases are mostly in document-oriented industries, right? Legal is going to be a major one. HR is going to be a major one. Customer FAQs, chatbots are going to be a major one. But there are so many operational areas that need a lot more. They won't necessarily be Gen AI. There'll be much more machine learning, different forms of AI applications. And I think in the book, if you read it carefully, in the supply chain area, in even the customer pathway areas, we have a lot of machine learning applications that are already covered. So I think Gen AI is getting a lot of attention, but we've got to be careful not to just look at that. There's a much broader field of intelligence that we need to leverage.
You know, Vinnie, it's a very good point. I happened to be listening to a podcast maybe 2 weeks ago, and it was a financial analyst talking about their observation, and they had done an interview with the United States military and asked them their perspective on generative AI. And they said, look, you know, while we think that there's a lot of promise here, we have roughly about 300 artificial intelligence use cases right now that are maybe to the average listener somewhat mundane, but to us a big deal. Like the ability to make sure that certain forms are filled out completely, the ability to make sure that, you know, certain other pieces of you know, image recognition are done well. And, you know, that they said is a bigger deal to us than the early days of generative AI. And I appreciate both of you making the point that artificial intelligence isn't anything new. Machine learning isn't anything new. And we as a SAP and customer community have been working on these projects for quite some time. And I appreciate your viewpoint on that. I want to shift gears.
One more point on when you compare SAP to the rest of the industry, right? I think SAP has, in the cloud, it's important to have this in the cloud with permissions and so on, right? Otherwise, the data cannot be used to train machines. SAP has some unique areas that very few other vendors do. If you look at Concur, right? Look at the spend and analytics between Concur and Ariba. It's already available on the cloud. When SAP is ready to talk about it, I'm sure that's going to be a significantly different offering. They have a product called Fineer, which is banking in the cloud. Hundreds of banks are in the cloud. The operational data that very few other vendors can bring out. So I think we're still in the first chapter of generative AI. There's going to be a lot more exciting area, but new use cases that we haven't thought about yet.
Yeah.
Agreed. I would like to maybe, if I might, for a moment with both of you, talk about the average chief information officer, the average application architect. They're working every day inside of SAP applications. They're trying to drive business value. They're trying to achieve business outcomes on behalf of the organizations that they work for. I'm curious, starting with you, Peter, if you could say what you'd like these individuals to take away from what you wrote.
Yeah, I think the takeaway from my and the use case for the CIOs, but also the application architects, as you have called it, I think you can. I think you can't expect many executives to read this book, as I said earlier, cover to cover. And that's why we have tried to make the content as accessible as possible for that audience. So I'll give you an example. The chapter 1 introduces basically these mega trends with thought experiments that really invites the reader to think through the implications of the mega trend. So it's really that we want to take the reader with us, and then each mega trend is really discussed in a separate chapter. And at the end of the chapter, you get a summary. What are the SAP solutions and the partner solutions that help our customers to deal with the mega trend? So these sections are more for the enterprise architect and the application experts. And I am hearing really this structure makes sense. It's really easy to read. It's a kind, if I would call it, it's a kind of a sushi style. And therefore, I think it's a business. It's written for business, but then also for IT. It's not, if you look for a detailed description or an SAP S/4HANA in detail, this is not a book to read, right? It's from a business point of view, and then we make the adoption towards the product. So I would say that's the difference between this and an in-depth S4 or an in-depth procurement, which is basically then a separate book. So this is more for the business people, but then also for CIOs and the application architects who need to make it happen, who need to define the architecture, etc., which is key for the scale of the companies, which I think was another key learning from what we have done. I don't know, Vinnie, anything from your side you want to add?
I would say, I started off saying edge applications. A lot of new edge applications became possible in the last few years. I think, Geoff, no matter what industry you're in, okay, you could be in logistics, reverse logistics, returns are important, right? You could be in insurance. The whole area of risk analytics, completely revolutionizing how the business model of insurance is changing, right? You could be in industrial, asset-heavy industries, and the whole business model, the CPQ that you go to market with is changing. So there's a lot of edge applications, no matter what your industry, that if you're developing, stop and ask SAP, hey, by the way, do you somewhere have this? And you're probably likely to find it. Or if you haven't thought about it, come to SAP and at least have them start the process of saying, have you considered this edge application in pharma and supply chain area? I was just, if not SAP, the other great thing about the book was I was blown away how many partners SAP has. The ecosystem has grown, right? So we've got Bain & Company in the book as a strategy firm. We've got industrial robotics firms. We've got energy specialists. We have automobile specialists. So many vertical specialists that we mine for the book. That SAP really, I hate to call them a research firm, but they are very, very vertically savvy. And I don't see too many customers reaching out to SAP and saying, what are you seeing in this industry? I think you're entering a new industry, or how is my industry changing? You really should be leveraging that a lot more.
So, Vinnie, if I might, is that something that you think the average reader should do more of potentially? Is reaching out to those inside of SAP and asking for best cases, best practices, use cases that might help them exchange and extend their visions further? Am I putting words in your mouth, or is that accurate?
Absolutely. In fact, in the first chapter, Peter and Thomas write that thought experiment, the concept of thought experiments, some wild ass scenarios. What's wrong in thinking about them? And when you do that, right, you'll find you can learn from other industries. You can learn, just challenge yourself. Again, the key theme is business as unusual. Let's not just keep asking for best practices for the last 5 years. What's going to be the next generation of practices, right? So I think the book is meant to challenge thinking in every industry.
Yeah, I would completely agree to that, right? Just take I would go beyond that, right? To the readers, challenge SAP, challenge us, challenge the partners, right? We basically said we would like to get back to this clean core, right? And we want to deliver innovation. That's changing the business model also of our partners, right? We will not be successful in case only you as a customer and we SAP will understand the strategy. The partners needs to get it as well. You need one song sheet. And that's where we need to get to. So we have changed the whole way how we structure the conversation with the partners, where we have now the industry cloud, where we have dedicated areas where we co-innovate on the platform with the partners. That's changing the business model. Let's face it, that brings speed. If you are keeping the clean core, you are able to upgrade it. You put it into the cloud with AI, ML, which we provide in the cloud. You have a completely different way of interacting. Just take food as an example, right? It's my second excitement, Geoff. Food, right? We
All
have
of ours.
over the last 1.5 years, we have seen how screwed we are with regards to the supply chain. And just last week again, right? What happened? So I would say commodity prices are really fluctuating. We need new crops. How to deal with the climate change. So all these topics, we need to have the precision farming getting integrated, machine learning, AI, and then also the how we combine the machines together with the softwares. There are so many new models, so many new partnerships, which we have to do. And I would say, as Vinnie said, that's basically also the new way how we do that. Challenge SAP, right? The best practices should be yours, but the common practices are existing. Don't start always from scratch. That's the whole thinking on the platform. And I would say that's the interesting stuff, right? When you basically, you can, not, I would say not assemble, but you really need to borrow these best practices and common practices from others. You just need to find it. And I would challenge the partners and SAP much, much more. That's what brings speed, and that's what brings agility. You need to be closer to your customers and the customers of your customers in order to manage. If in case the supply chain is screwed, your customer experience is shitty. So we need to think that through.
When I think about the two kind of use cases we talked about today, how does the average CIO think about this book? How does the application architect think about this book in their roles inside their organizations? And if I can think about what both of you are saying to me today, and hopefully to everyone listening, it's all about being curious. It's all about stepping out from behind the day-to-day of what your businesses and operations are doing, and engaging in some thoughts about where you could take it and how you can make these ideas come to life inside your organizations. Because I think in your summary of this, business as unusual means you have to be open to exploration, investigation, experimentation in order to drive a new outcome. And I think that that's important. So as we quickly run out of time today, and this was my biggest fear with both of you today, that we had a lot more subject matter to cover than we had time. Where would you like to see the listener today go next? What is something you'd recommend to them? Vinnie, let's start with you, and then Peter, I'd like you to wrap that up.
Well,
besides reading the book, which they should absolutely do.
No, but I would say we are tracking, aside from SAP, 100 different edge applications in different industries. None of these applications were possible 5 years ago. I couldn't have imagined it. None of us could have imagined them. They've become viable, right? So EV battery management, it is viable. It is an opportunity today, a major opportunity today, right? Risk-based insurance, CPQ for outcome-based contracts and all that. All these are opportunities today. So don't just look at ledgers and talk about CRM, stuff that we've been talking about for years. Look at composable architectures in a brand new way and imagine new applications that weren't feasible a few years ago. So, forget the book. Just think about all the new stuff that is doable today.
Peter, what's your view?
Yeah, I would agree. I think the business as usual with SAP project really has created a wealth of conversations. And I am also expecting that we have a lot of conversations, discussions, interactions with the customers, but also with the partners, right? Because we need to really make sure we also finally need to make it happen. I would encourage everybody to have these conversations. And why? In every conversation I had with the customer and the partner, there are new ideas coming. There are new inspirations coming. And I think without these inspirations, I think we fall back. And from that point of view, I think we only have one option. We want to get the discussions going with business as unusual. And I am sure if we do this in the right way and we exchange the knowledge, this is exactly the right foundation. And we will have great ideas with machine learning, AI, what Vinnie talked about, to really redefine the innovation, but also redefine the business models moving forward in each and every industry, even across the boundaries. I would say that's it.
Fantastic. One basic question for both of you. If the reader and listener wants to find this book, Business as Unusual with SAP, where would they find it?
SAP Press, which a number of SAP people already know because you buy BTP books and ABAP books there, they published it. So it's prominent on their site. It's also available, the paper copy is available on Amazon. So the ebooks are only through SAP Press. So, both of them are easy to access brands.
And the title
Peter.
is Business Unusual. Title is Business Unusual. And I still have some signed books here in my office. So every customer from the US who comes to Germany asks for the book. Geoff, that's an offer.
I have a signed copy from you. I do. I already have one.
You got one. No, seriously. Yeah. And I know I big time want to thank you for organizing that. I think our customers deserve that thought leadership and the partners. And from that time, a big thank you for helping us to scale it.
So I thank you both for taking the time to write.
I would only say, go see Peter personally and challenge him. I mean, he is just a font of so much vertical knowledge. He's probably the most vertically savvy executive in the industry. So take advantage of meeting him and also get a signed copy.
Absolutely. And Peter, we can find you on LinkedIn, of course. And if any member of the ASUG community or any other customer throughout the world wants to connect with Peter, certainly use me as a conduit or go to Peter directly. He's easy to find. He is not shy of opinions, which I've always enjoyed very much about him. This is really a great way for customers, Peter and Vinnie both, to understand and think about the prospect and the ability to do digital transformation at scale using SAP solutions. And I think you've done a wonderful job of capturing 8 mega trends. Thank goodness you didn't write 20, and you got 20 down to 12 and down to 8. 8 mega trends that I think are worthy of your thinking as a CIO, as an application architect, line of business professional, whoever you are, thinking about how these may apply to your business and how they may apply to how you think about the future of technology innovation inside of your industry. So both of you, Peter, thank you. Vinnie, thank you. We appreciate your time and always putting your thoughts out there for all of us to understand and go better and think about differently. Thank you both very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Geoff and Vinnie. Thank you for your collaboration.